It's a cold, misty dawn on January 31st, 1921, off the coast of North Carolina. A Coast Guard lookout peers through his binoculars toward the treacherous Diamond Shoals, a place rightfully nicknamed the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Out of the gray fog emerges a massive, five-masted schooner. Her sails are fully set, catching the wind, yet she's steering a collision course straight for the sandbars. When the Coast Guard finally boards her days later, they find a scene frozen in time. Dinner is on the table, the stove is still warm, and a pot of coffee is ready. But there isn't a single human soul on board. This is the story of the Carroll A Deering, one of the most haunting maritime mysteries in history. What happened to the 11 men who vanished from this perfectly good ship? Today, we're diving into the ship of 10 shadows to uncover the secrets of her final, ill-fated voyage. The Carrol A Deering was a giant of her time, a 255-foot wooden schooner launched in Maine just 2 years earlier. But her final journey, which began in August 1920, seemed cursed from the beginning. Her original captain, William Merritt, a war hero, fell dangerously ill almost immediately and had to be dropped off in Delaware. In his place, the company recruited a 66-year-old veteran, Captain Willis Wormel, to take the ship to Rio de Janeiro. Wormel was a disciplined man, but his crew was anything but. By the time they reached Barbados on the return leg, the tension was at a breaking point. The first mate, Charles McClellan, was a heavy drinker who openly detested the captain. In a Barbados cafe, witnesses heard McClellan growl a chilling promise. "I'll get the captain before we get to Norfolk. I will." As the Deering began its final leg towards Virginia, the behavior of the ship and its crew became increasingly erratic. On January 28, 1921, the schooner passed the Cape Lookout lightship off the coast of North Carolina. The lightship's keeper, Captain Jacobson, reported a scene that felt fundamentally off. A tall, thin man with reddish hair and a foreign accent shouted through a megaphone, claiming the ship had lost both of its anchors in a storm and asking that the owners be notified. Jacobson immediately noticed two things. First, the man speaking was definitely not Captain Wormel, and second, the crew was milling around on the quarterdeck, an area strictly reserved for officers and usually off-limits to common sailors. The mystery deepened the following afternoon when another vessel spotted the Deering southwest of Diamond Shoals. The schooner was steering a peculiar course that would lead it directly onto the lethal sandbars, yet the observers saw no one on the decks and heard no response to their hails. It was as if the ship were being steered by a ghost. By the next morning, January 31st, the Deering was found smashed against the shoals, her keel buried 14 feet deep in the sand from the force of the collision. The boarding of the Carrol A Deering remains one of the most documented and disturbing ghost ship encounters in history. When Captain James Carlson of the wrecking tug Rescue finally set foot on the deck, he found a ship that looked as though its inhabitants had simply stepped out for a moment and never returned. The table was set for a meal, a pot of coffee was still on the stove, and unwashed dishes sat in the sink. Yet the signs of a struggle, or at least a forced abandonment, were everywhere. The ship's lifeboats were missing, and the falls, the ropes used to lower them, trailed over the side in the water. Crucially, the ship's log, its navigation equipment, and the crew's personal effects were gone. The captain's quarters were in a state of total disarray, and his desk was covered in handwriting that was clearly not his own. The ship's steering gear was completely shattered, and the rudder had been disengaged from its stock. Despite these signs of chaos, the ship's running lights and even 2 red lights in the rigging were still burning, casting a spectral glow over the abandoned decks. The only residents left to greet the Coast Guard were 3 half-starved cats who had survived the 4-day ordeal alone. The disappearance of the Deering crew wasn't just a local legend, it became a full-blown national crisis. Because several other ships had disappeared in the same general area around the same time, including the sulfur freighter Hewitt, the United States government launched a massive investigation. 5 separate departments, including the FBI and the Department of State, were tasked with finding out if a new threat was roaming the Atlantic. Even Herbert Hoover, the Secretary of Commerce at the time, personally oversaw the investigation, concerned that American shipping was under attack. In April 1921, the case took a sensational turn when a message in a bottle washed up on a beach in Buxton, North Carolina. The scrawled note read, "Deering captured by oil-burning boat, taking off everything, handcuffing crew." For a moment, the world believed pirates or foreign agents were responsible. However, after months of intense federal scrutiny, a local fisherman named Christopher Columbus Gray admitted he had forged the note in a bizarre attempt to get a job at the local lighthouse. With the only piece of physical evidence exposed as a hoax, the official investigation began to fizzle out, eventually closing in 1922. Without a single definitive answer. So, what really happened to the 12 men of the Carroll A. Deering? The most widely accepted theory among officials, including Herbert Hoover's assistants, was mutiny. Given the known threats from the first mate and the sightings of an undisciplined crew at Cape Lookout, it is highly likely that the men rose against Captain Warmell. Perhaps they killed him or set him adrift, only to realize too late that they couldn't navigate the treacherous Diamond Shoals. Other theories are more grounded in the brutal reality of the Atlantic. Some believe that after the ship grounded in a massive storm with 90-mile-an-hour winds, the crew panicked and attempted to launch the lifeboats to reach the shore 9 miles away. In such violent seas, no small boat could have survived, and the crew would have been swallowed by the mountain-sized waves before they ever saw land. And then, of course, there are the whispers of the Bermuda Triangle. While the Deering didn't wreck inside the triangle's formal borders, she had just passed through its waters, leading many to believe she was another victim of its unexplained pull. The Carroll A. Deering was eventually blown to bits with dynamite to clear shipping lanes, and her timbers were scavenged by locals to build houses on Hatteras Island. Today, all that remains of the Ship of 10 Shadows is her bell and capstan, sitting silently in a museum as a testament to the men who vanished without a trace. We may never know if it was mutiny, a freak accident, or something more mysterious that claimed the crew, but the legend of the Deering ensures that their story will never be forgotten by the sea. What do you think happened on that final lonely night off the North Carolina coast? Was it a cold-blooded mutiny, or did the graveyard of the Atlantic simply take what it was owed? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you want to dive deeper into the world's most enduring maritime mysteries, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the unknown. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon.